Hi, I'm Kath. I'm stood here at, I think, round about 7:45 in the morning, waiting for the train to take me down to Bristol, and I will then be meeting Nick Wolfe, and we are starting our journey off to Afghanistan. The reason that we're going to Afghanistan is that a few years ago I met Nick at Sheep Music Festival and then again at Reading Festival, and he asked me if I would like to join him going to Afghanistan, a country that he's been to a number of times. And we went last year. We did some training in basic life support and intermediate life support, and also got involved in the emergency department and some facial trauma as well. And so this year we're going back to really build on what we were able to do last year for the civilian doctors and medical staff in Mazar-e-Sharif Public Hospital. And so we're off, we're going, and the donations from FMS from all the volunteers working at Glastonbury Festival, Reading and various other places has enabled us to be able to take out some more equipment, which is essentially consisting of AEDs and a drill, a surgical motor, so that I can teach some basic facial trauma surgery.
We're always looking for nominations for charities which meet our charitable purposes, and in fact we probably have a lack of nominations coming forward. We'd like to encourage volunteers to put forward their suggestions for charities, both in the UK and abroad, where we could help with some assistance. And we have a set of criteria we judge any allocation of funding towards as well, which is about education, health, governance of that charity, ability to show it's sustainable without our help.
We've got to the stage now where we're quite a big business, in our terms anyway. We have an annual income in a good year of getting on for £250,000, and a fair proportion of that comes from Glastonbury, and as a result of that we're able to donate as big a proportion of that as we can manage and support the various charities and projects around the world that are one of our major aims, objectives.
10 years after starting with FMS in its embryo form, I went to Pakistan and subsequently Afghanistan to do some work for a charity called Senegal's Afghanistan Appeal.
And a lot of the head injuries have got associated facial injuries, so craniofacial often goes together.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
And it's just such a...
And the news did what? Car crashes, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
That the majority,
yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
And to raise money, we started these walks, and on one of these walks, sponsored walks, came Nick Wolfe, and since he is himself a first aid specialist, I think I can call you that, Nick, can't I? He then decided himself that he wanted to come out and do some work in first aid.
Got interested in the whole issue of, in those days, anti-personnel mines and the injuries that they were doing, particularly the physio and limb fitting that Senegal's Afghanistan Appeal did. That's now developed much more towards medical reasons why people lose limbs and medical reasons for disability.
And since he was educated, as you might say, he did a lot of his training here in the Glastonbury Festival, which Mr. Eavis has made famous, and raised a lot of money for various sources. doing that. So Nick thought that he ought to try and apply his Festival of Medical Services expertise in Afghanistan, and I think it's been a very good idea, and we have given him all the support we can. There's a hospital in Mazar-e Sharif, which is in the north, which has been rebuilt by the Germans, I think I'm right in saying, and being stocked, supplied, equipped by the Japanese, and that's taken a long time for various reasons. It's now, however, nearing fruition, so I think he wants to go out and both train people and use the facilities there.
And it's very good for me. If I'm writing out chapter 130 or something, is it? Or something like that, was it?
There or there.
And so that they give nearly half of it away, which is brilliant. So they run the whole show, and then so they can give 80,000 to some worthwhile causes like yourself. And Sandy's charity, which sounds fantastic. So it pleases me as well.
We raise £250,000 a year roughly in turnover and income. With Glastonbury being a fallow year, obviously turnover drops when that happens, but then we look to donate probably about 50 to 60% of that, which is effectively profit, to charities and worthy causes.
When we started, Michael, the event was really small, wasn't it? I mean, there were perhaps 10, 20,000 people. So what we provided in the early days was quite simple, but as the events got bigger and bigger, we've had to develop alongside it, and that's really why it's become such a big thing.
You've grown like we have, really, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So in 79, the first year, there were probably about 15,000 people there. Because now it's nearly 200,000.
I don't know when it wasn't Festival Medical Services, it was just Chris organising a sort of general practice on site, which is what it really was general practice. We had to, a lot of people had to go outside. We didn't have any x-ray facilities. So there were a lot of patients waiting for hours to be shipped up to Mallet Hospital for x-ray, or further afield, obviously, if it was more serious, to Bath or to Yeovil. But they did, and the other thing that wasn't on site was a pharmacy, of course. So patients would, if you wanted to prescribe anything, they would sign the prescription, and then prescriptions would be taken to a local chemist in Glastonbury, and then they'd come back either later that day or the next day to pick up their prescription, which was an incredible waste of time. And I gather now, I've been out of it some years, but everything happens on site, so very few patients leave the site, which is excellent.
Well, this is 34 years ago we started, and so they're still doing it now. I mean, it's a huge thing, and so that they take care of all the doctors, all the nurses, all the emergencies, all the ambulances, all the crises, proper forward drives and everything, and it's so well done. And so that Chris and his team should be very proud of what they do.
But my overriding, I mean, the two main overriding impressions, I think, of the festival was the lack of privacy that patients had. And I suppose the doctors as well. We would consult in some sort of glorified open space with makeshift curtains separating individual consultations, but looking at it today, I gather that confidentiality and privacy is paramount, which is obviously the right thing. But we consulted in very much an open space, but people put up with that, and the patients did actually, I suppose, looking at it today and by today's standards, did put up with a lot. And the other overriding impression is how grateful the patients were. They were, I think, amazed to find that there was this medical service operating. I don't think they really expected it, and I was always overwhelmed, as my colleagues were, as to how grateful patients were. And that was really nice, and that was slightly contrasted with work back in the surgery, really, where patients came to expect the NHS as a right, but they didn't expect it as a right here. But I think that's partly that, but partly that's the overall ambience of the whole festival, really. I mean, there is an overwhelming sense of goodwill here.
But as time's gone on and the festival's got bigger and bigger, and the sort of problems that we have to deal with have got more and more complicated and involved, we've expanded, and we've done every festival there's been, apart from the very first one in 1970.
I think the credit needs to go to the management team and the coordinators, because they spend a lot of time during the year, and they come from all over the UK, giving time of a weekend to ensure that the service is going to be perfect for the 4 or 5 days of the festival that the service is provided. And that's all done free of charge by them. It's their time, their commitment. People travelling from the northwest and northeast of England down here to ensure that the service is professional and run on a standard that equates to the National Health Service.
We do have some volunteers who come to the events, particularly Glastonbury, who don't really understand that we're a charity. They see that they're providing a medical service and they understand the benefits of that, but they don't really know why we're raising the funds and who provides the funds. For instance, they may not understand that the event provider pays for the medical service, and it's free at the point of use for the punters. So part of what we're doing at the moment is trying to raise the profile within the membership about what we do.
We're able to keep costs down because we only have one person who receives any remuneration for their work. Everybody else is a volunteer, and the challenge then is to try and ensure that we beg, steal or borrow items that people are quite happy to give us to provide a service. So quite often medical suppliers, when they know it's for Glastonbury, will provide boxes of sterile equipment, medical gloves, items like that, because they feel it's a connection that they'd like to make as well, and they realise that it's a great cause when actually it's not going to a profit-making organisation.
I think we see the future of FMS. We'd like to increase our donations in the future, and we'd like to take on more charities that we can give money to. So we'd ask our members to let us know if they have charities that they think would suit us.
The nurse from FMS came along, bought some pots from me, and we got talking. And being a nurse, she was interested in what we were doing there. We was carrying a couple of boards of photographs on the stall of what we're doing in India, and she loved it. And now dear Tracy West is not only with FMS, but she's also a trustee with Tulsa Trust too. One of the first problems that the FMS helped us with was the need for an ambulance. And they very kindly offered us an ambulance here in England, which we could then get out to India. But we found that it would be cheaper and less problem to actually buy an ambulance in India. And in the end, we located one for £12,000, a brand new Tata, pretty much purpose-built ambulance. It hasn't got the facilities that our ambulances have here, but it's a good, basic, strong, fabulous vehicle. And we needed it because when especially malaria patients come to us dying, we've got to quickly get them to the nearest hospital, which is maybe six hours on rough roads away. If it's a very serious case and somebody that needs an operation for something, it's 8 hours away, the better hospital. So we developed a referral system, and the ambulance does provide us with this possibility of doing some serious helping in extreme cases. Thank you very much for the ambulance.
So the charitable side has really developed, but from a fairly early stage, I think. It was a conscious decision amongst all of us that we wanted to make something come of what we do. And I think there's also the feeling that supporting these projects is very much in line with the ethos of Glastonbury, because Glastonbury is that sort of event where it's not just a huge profit-making adventure, it's something that does try to make a difference around the world, and we felt very much, and we still do, that we wanted to be part of that.
Actual stewards do it on the same basis. They get a ticket and we give them money for their time, so that money goes to charities as well. Mm-hmm. So there's 125,000 that goes to the stewards' charities. But it could be the football club at Wales or the school at Glastonbury, whatever, you know what I mean? And so the thousands of different things. The festival itself gives away £2 million a year as well. That's the Greenpeace to Water Aid and to Oxfam, which goes into the same kind of thing. So the charity aspect of it is actually really essential for me, because to start with, it was a wild affair. It really was a bit crazy, and the people were slightly dangerous. And I thought, oh, what can I do with this? Because I've been weaned on some Methodism, okay, and my uncles were all some ministers and stuff, and so the Methodist thing is that heaven is life on earth, really, the quality of life on earth, and so we're not bothered whether there's a God or not. We're not even remotely interested. But we are interested in improving the quality of life on earth, you see. So part of me when I was a baby, and so that's partly why I'm the person that I am. So the charity stuff is really, really important for that reason.
When we first started, it was very small and very little money was involved, really. But as time's gone on and the income from the events that we cover have increased, we've taken the view that we want to plough as much of that back into charitable projects as we possibly can. And the way to do that, of course, is to get people to work for nothing, to volunteer. And they do that for two reasons, I think. One, that they want to support the projects, and they get a lot of satisfaction from feeling that the work they do does make a big difference somewhere else in the world. But also, they want to be at the festival. You know, they're all people who want to be here, and quite honestly, you couldn't work here if you didn't want to be here. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, some years ago I was walking down the street where I live, and I saw this strange looking ambulance parked up, and it had Festival Medical Services written across it. I thought, that's interesting. I kind of like medical stuff, you know, with my background in osteopathy, and I like festivals. It was just one of those occasions where I thought, I'll lock that in the back of my mind and get back to it sometime maybe. Anyway, years later, Glastonbury comes up, 2010. I really wanted to go. It was my 50th birthday. It was their 40th anniversary. I thought, I've really got to go. And I thought, how can I do it? All the tickets have long gone. So I go onto the Glastonbury website and see who's employing, and I see Festival Medical Service. I thought, that's the name I saw on that ambulance all those years ago. So I gave him a call, and I got picked up, and a chap called Jamie signed me up to be one of the campsite stewards. And I had the most amazing experience. I just loved every moment of it. Following on from that, I then get a call, and after having done Glastonbury, could I be a first aider at Reading? And I thought, yeah, I got a first aid certificate, I can do that. So I go along, I partake in all that, and I had a most amazing experience again. I thought, I love doing first aid now, this is brilliant. Following on again from that, I then get another call. Andy, we're running FPOS courses. Do you want to take part in an FPOS course? So Festival Medical Service paid me to go and do the first responder course, and had a fantastic time on that. And I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's been just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And the whole FMS thing is just brilliant. Great, one big family, love hanging out with all the people, love the festivals, learning new skills, brilliant, I love it.
So they are the top medical people at festivals, and they've had the best training, which is here, so over a period of 34 years, and they know what they're doing, and they do it very well.